The world was stunned, newsrooms buzzed with disbelief, and people everywhere stopped to check their phones, trying to make sense of what had just happened. Not by gunfire, not by the roar of engines or the flash of missiles, but by Manila's bold new law, a move that would send shockwaves far beyond the Philippines. On February 10, 2026, headlines blazed across the globe. Manila enacts Maritime Zones Law, redraws South China Sea map. The world's attention snapped to the region, as a new chapter in the long-running dispute began to unfold. This wasn't a military move. No ships sailed, no jets scrambled. Instead, the Philippines chose the battlefield of international law, wielding legal documents instead of weapons, and arguments instead of artillery. For years, Filipino fishermen faced harassment, their rights trampled by China's massive coast guard. Their livelihoods were threatened, and their safety was never guaranteed. Each day at sea was a gamble, as they navigated not just the waves, but the ever-present shadow of foreign patrols. With this law, the Philippines shifted from protest to legal assertion, declaring loudly and clearly that the days of ambiguity are over. The government was no longer content to simply complain, it was taking a stand, putting its claims into writing, and daring the world to take notice. The new map is no longer a suggestion, it's national law, backed by global, legal frameworks and international conventions. Manila's claims now had the force of legislation and the support of legal precedent. Beijing's response was furious, but beneath the bluster, unease was clear. Chinese officials condemned the move, but their stern faces betrayed a deeper concern. The rules of the game were changing. China's usual tactics, force and pressure, suddenly mattered less than legal arguments. The Philippines had shifted the contest from the open sea to the halls of international law, where power is measured not just in ships, but in statutes and treaties. The Philippines had fired a legal shot heard round the sea. The ripple effects were immediate, as other nations watched closely, wondering if Manila's boldness would inspire similar moves elsewhere. The South China Sea is a global artery, rich in resources and fraught with tension. Its waters carry not just fish and oil, but the hopes and anxieties of nations, all vying for a share of its bounty and a say in its future. By passing the Maritime Zones Act, Manila wasn't just defending territory, it was standing up for a rules-based order. The law was a statement that small nations too could shape the rules, and that international law could be a shield as well as a sword. The world now faced a defining question: will might make right, or will law prevail? The answer would set a precedent, not just for the South China Sea, but for contested waters everywhere. The answer would be forged in the waters newly defined by Manila's map, a test of resolve, and a turning point in the struggle between power and principle. The Maritime Zones Act is a masterstroke, proof that a small nation can challenge a giant without firing a shot. In a world where might often makes right, Manila has chosen a different path, one that relies on intellect, strategy, and the rule of law rather than brute force. This bold move signals a new era in the region's geopolitics, where legal frameworks can be as powerful as fleets of warships. Manila didn't try to match China's navy, it wielded the power of law. Instead of engaging in an arms race it could never win, the Philippines turned to its greatest asset, the legitimacy of international law and the support of a global community that values order and justice. This act formalizes the Philippines' maritime entitlements under international law, shifting the conflict from ships to statutes. It draws clear boundaries not just on maps, but in the eyes of the world, transforming a military standoff into a legal debate. Now, every encounter is about legality versus illegality, not just rival ships at sea. Each confrontation is scrutinized through the lens of international agreements, making every move a matter of global concern and not just a regional dispute. The genius? It appeals to global norms. By anchoring its claims in universally accepted principles, Manila invites the world to stand with it, turning a local struggle into a test of the international order. A law based on international treaties is seen as legitimate, not provocative. It's a move that commands respect, not retaliation, and positions the Philippines as a responsible member of the global community. Manila reframes the dispute, inviting the world to judge by law, not by force. This approach shifts the narrative, making it clear that the Philippines seeks justice, not conflict, and is willing to abide by the rules that govern all nations. This is asymmetrical diplomacy at its finest. By leveraging legal tools, Manila levels the playing field, showing that even smaller nations can assert their rights and protect their interests on the world stage. The law is a pure declaration of sovereignty, defining and defending the Republic's territory for its people. It's a message of unity and resolve, rallying the nation around a peaceful but firm assertion of its rights. Manila isn't inventing new claims, it's formalizing what's already been affirmed by international tribunals. This act is rooted in precedent, reinforcing decisions that have already been recognized by the world's highest legal authorities. The pen, not the sword, has drawn a line China can't easily cross. It's a line backed by law, by history, and by the collective will of a nation determined to stand its ground. On the world stage, this legal move is more challenging to Beijing than any naval blockade. It puts China in the spotlight, forcing it to answer not just to Manila, but to the entire international community. The Philippines has made its case, and the world is watching. As the story unfolds, Manila's masterstroke may inspire other nations to choose the power of law over the force of arms, reshaping the future of international disputes. The strength of Manila's law lies in its foundation, the 1982 United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS. This landmark treaty, often called the Constitution for the Oceans, was painstakingly negotiated by nations around the world to bring order and fairness to the world's seas. It sets out the legal framework that governs all uses of the oceans and their resources, aiming to prevent conflict and promote cooperation. Both the Philippines and China have ratified this vital agreement, formally committing themselves to its rules and principles. By doing so, they agreed to abide by the same set of standards, regardless of their size or power. UNCLOS sets clear, universally recognized rules for maritime zones, including the 200 nautical mile exclusive economic zone, or EEZ. This zone grants coastal states special rights over marine resources, from fishing to energy exploration, within a defined area measured from their shores. The new Philippine law translates these universal rights into national law, spelling out in detail where the country's jurisdiction begins and ends. This legal clarity is crucial for protecting the nation's interests and upholding the rule of law at sea. This move directly challenges China's sweeping and ambiguous 9-line claim, which overlaps with the Philippines' EEZ. In 2016, the Hague Tribunal ruled that China's claim has no legal basis under UNCLOS, a decision celebrated by international legal experts. By embedding this tribunal victory into its national policy, Manila forces China to make a choice: either reject UNCLOS outright, or face the contradictions in its own stance. The law compels China to confront the reality of its commitments. The law exposes Beijing's hypocrisy, publicly claiming to respect international law, while disregarding it whenever it becomes inconvenient. This double standard is now on full display for the world to see. The dispute is no longer shrouded in ambiguity. It is now a clear contest between a nation determined to uphold global law and another that chooses to flout it when it suits its interests. The world can see, this is not just a murky territorial spat, but a defining test of the international order. The outcome will shape how nations resolve disputes far beyond the South China Sea. The Philippines has made its stand on solid legal ground, setting an example for other nations facing similar challenges. Its commitment to the rule of law is now enshrined in both international and domestic policy. Before this law, Philippine policy on the South China Sea was fragmented, different maps, mixed messages. China exploited this ambiguity, dismissing protests as isolated or inconsistent. The new law changes everything: one official map, one legal voice, binding for all government agencies. Now, every Coast Guard patrol enforces national law, not just policy. This unity is a strategic advantage. No more room for misinterpretation. Any foreign vessel violating the EEZ is now breaking Philippine law, not just causing a diplomatic incident. Diplomats have a clear, powerful narrative. These waters are ours, by law. The law galvanizes the nation, turning a complex argument into a simple truth. This is ours. The map is now a symbol of heritage, prosperity, and national consensus. The Maritime Zones Act transforms every Chinese action in the Philippine EEZ into a clear legal violation. What was once bullying is now trespassing, an explicit breach of Philippine law. The law strips away ambiguity. Are you inside the zone or not? Manila can now document every incursion as a legal breach, not just an incident. China is recast from rival claimant to serial lawbreaker. Every aggressive act becomes evidence in a growing case against Beijing. The law prevents normalization of China's presence, forcing Beijing to either escalate or face a legal fight it can't win. The Philippines has reset the rules. Every move is now on the record. For Filipinos, this law is about survival, identity, and dignity. The West Philippine Sea feeds millions. Chinese aggression threatens livelihoods and food security. The law is a promise to protect the nation's resources for its people, not for foreign powers. It's more than economics. It's about pride and sovereignty. Being barred from ancestral fishing grounds is a deep insult. This law is the antidote. It unites Filipinos, turning anger into action and resistance into law. The image of a small fishing boat facing a Chinese ship is now backed by legal force. The act protects territory, resources, and national honor. The fight is for the Filipino soul, and the law is their shield. The Philippines' legal strategy is a brilliant move in a David and Goliath contest. Military confrontation with China is unwinnable. Law is the great equalizer. UNCLOS and the 2016 Hague ruling give Manila the stronger hand in legal arguments. This approach builds international support. Nations prefer backing law over war. Allies can join through patrols, diplomacy, and cooperation without risking conflict. China's coercion isolates it. Manila's law-based resistance rallies silent supporters. The Philippines shows there's an alternative to capitulation. The diplomat's gambit defends not just the Philippines but the rules-based order itself. The 2016 Hague ruling was a legal triumph, but unenforced. It was just paper. China ignored it, continuing its aggression. The Maritime Zones Act changes that, operationalizing the Hague victory. Now the Coast Guard enforces not just an international ruling, but a binding national law. Every citation, protest, and lesson in schools keeps the Hague victory alive. The law tells China, you can ignore the court, but not our sovereign law. This embeds the ruling into the nation's legal and political fabric. The Philippines models how to make international law matter by integrating it at home. National law and international ruling now reinforce each other. The 2016 victory is no longer symbolic. It's a living shield for Philippine sovereignty. The Maritime Zones Act is a global event, a test for the international order. The world watches, will law or force define the 21st century? If Manila's law-based stance succeeds, it affirms that rules, not might, can protect sovereignty. It offers hope to smaller nations everywhere. If China overrides the law, it signals that treaties like UNCLOS are toothless, inviting more aggression worldwide. The stakes are enormous. The future of a rules-based world hangs in the balance. International support is crucial, not just for the Philippines, but for global stability. The lines on Manila's map are now a line in the sand for the world.